21 and Agenda 2030, but their end game is actually something called Agenda 2050. And each agenda is meant to break down Agenda 2050 into smaller steps, give out some of the tasks to NGOs, which are non-government organizations, in order to achieve their final task. Now, if you're asking what's their final task of Agenda 2050, well, it's something called Project North America 2050, where they want to take the entire middle of North America, push everyone into 15-minute cities, and restrict your movement and your freedoms. And a lot of people don't seem to grasp that, and the fact that Mark Carney is part of the UN Global Envoy, and that is exactly how they're going to achieve this mission, by telling you that they need to basically decrease human consumption in order for all of us to survive. And this actually goes back to the memorandum that Henry Kissinger wrote in the 90s, early 90s, that I did a video on. But let me just show you what I found. So this all goes back to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, and it was during this time that the Wildlands Project was to be implemented. Pause to read. I don't want to get taken off. And that is where Agenda 21 comes into place, where they will target mega regions in order to get people to move out of these regions into cities, so mainly rural folks, that will be pushed into cities to make 15-minute cities. Now, they are behind schedule even for the Agenda 2030, but it is basically said that at least 30%, but as much as 75% of the land needs to be recovered from the people in order to allow it to heal with biological things. Now, what's interesting is that this area is very rich in resources. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the Y2Y project. It's Yellowstone to the Yukon. Now, when the NDP was in power in Alberta for the 4 years, they tried to actually take that piece, the Yukon to Yellowstone initiative. However, the Albertans fought back and they didn't manage to get that, but they did manage to get the northern BC part and the Yukon part into the agenda already. And that's where you get the Agenda 2050, where basically nothing natural can remain. All of our human rights will be taken away and transhumanism will be pushed greatly. Now, I did a video on transhumanism as well. It's somewhere in the copious amounts of videos that I have. But I also did a huge video on Kissinger's memorandum, and it all involves Depop, if you know what I mean. Then you have the Deagle report, which is also stating that the populations will drop by a lot of percentages by the year 2050. And everything seems to be centered around we will not have enough resources in order to project the growth of humanity and in order for people not to go crazy in case there is a lack of resources. So instead of governments going just for land, they're going specifically for resources, which is why Alberta is being pushed so hard to basically shut down everything that it needs in order to survive, to push people out of these rural areas and into cities so that they can trap everybody into the 15-minute city cycle. Now, I can go into a lot more details, especially with a lot of the Depop coming up as a theme or a pattern in all of these agendas, and including the Georgia Guidestones. I mean, I can do a whole connection thing on it, but I think a lot of people need to be aware of what's coming for Canada because of Mark Carney, who he is and who he stands by.